All right, we will call the meeting to order here at 7:03. This board has a land acknowledgement and an anti-racism statement that it has drafted and supported. Those statements can be found on the board's webpage of the Sudden Valley website. Roll call, we have everybody from the board, and we got Glenn, Orks, Rachel, and John from staff. So do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda, please.
Oh, snap.
What would you like, Linda?
So under 6A for discussion, somehow it got turned into third-party election vendor. And I thought, wait a minute, I know I put online voting on there and somehow somebody renamed it. Can we please go back to online voting? Because that's what the document is titled and everything, please.
Yeah, we can make that change.
Thank you very much.
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second. Nope.
All those in favor? All right, we will move on to announcements. Do we have anyone that has any announcements? Or staff? Linda?
I don't know if all of us know, and I know that we've been talking a lot about the gym lately. I believe that Governor Inslee has moved Whatcom County real soon. We're gonna, I think like Monday, we go into phase 2.
Yep. Monday we go to phase 2.
Okay. Because then we should be able to open up the gym if we got a plan.
I think Glenn's going to touch on that tonight.
Okay, and that's why I was saying it's just, he was just on the news and I was listening at supper time and eating pizza and going, okay, because we keep waiting. And for a long time, it's like they were putting us off. And I know a lot of people are excited about it. So that's about all I got.
Okay. Any other announcements? Orks?
On our website, you can now find a form that we've put up to collect information from the community about snow and ice issues that folks might see in their neighborhoods. If you go to our website, you should see that under announcements, I believe. So let us know through the form. Thanks.
Great idea.
I have a clarifying question, Oryx. Is that so if there's something going on in your neighborhood, you use that form to report it?
Right now, it's mostly for the snow and ice response. We really hope to be able to expand that in the future. Right now, we're giving this a shot. Of course, if there's any kind of emergency, that's for the proper authorities there. But if it's just something you need us to be aware of, especially if we are closed at the office due to bad weather, you might still be able to get us on the phone, but this form is a way to help make sure that no one's falling through the cracks.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure thing.
I have a question. Oryx, who's going to monitor the forms, or how, like if somebody needs maintenance, for instance? So how are you guys going to plan on monitoring that?
Every time there's a response, that should notify maintenance immediately. Although it's not something that we're planning to, routinely respond to whoever has given us that notification. It's actually, I don't believe it asks for folks' name or contact information. It's just a heads up for us. If you need to speak to someone immediately, you should still call.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
So Jacob is the one that's monitoring it. So it goes into a Google sheet and he's watching it all the time. So it's almost in real time.
Okay. I just was curious. I know a lot of times when we have the forms, for instance, with the applications for volunteers for committees, that's usually monitored by office staff. And that's why I was wondering if we've narrowed that process down to where Jake is looking at this stuff just right away, or whoever's going to handle snow and stuff from now on.
Yeah, he should get a notification on his phone, day or night.
Okay.
All right. Any other announcements? All right, moving on, we have property owner comments. We have a few people in attendance tonight, so
We do, and we do have a hand raised. Nancy, I'll go ahead and bring you on over here. Just give your name and address.
Thank you. I'm Nancy Allianac, and I'm at 4 Sandalwood Circle. And I have a comment on online voting, which you'll hear more about from Linda a little later. A paper trail with paper ballots is a vital part of a voter's trust in election security and fairness. Online may be efficient, but it requires we accept electronic results and no paper trail. If a recount is required, paper ballots individually marked by a voter make a big difference in whether or not all voters will trust and accept the election result. I hope the board decides not to pursue online voting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees. Okay, if anybody else would like to join in for property owners' comments, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Looks like we've got 9 people in attendance tonight. And raise hand should be down at the bottom of your screen. Nobody on the phone tonight, so everybody's joining us either by a mobile device or by PC or Mac. But so far,
right.
no takers.
Well, there's another round at the end, so they want to think about it. So I'll turn the floor over to Glenn now for our general manager's report.
All right, thank you. Just a quick update on the snow and ice response. I think it's going well. Jacob and his team have done a great job. It's going to get busier for them, looks like on Saturday, Friday night into Saturday, depending on the timing, of course. But they're all ready to go. We just got another load of sand and our de-icer's still filled up, so we're doing good there. I will continue to send updates when they're appropriate. He gets a report at 3 o'clock from security, 3 a.m. every morning, and the team will be in at 5 a.m. again, just to make sure everything's good on Friday. Linda, you mentioned the rec center. You got a little ahead of me.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We are already drafting a plan to bring to you guys at the next meeting. Couple of key issues are cleaning and how we schedule, because there's, like as an example, the workout room, the gym, we can only put so many people in there, even at phase 2. So we need to, kind of get our reservation thing set up and be clear about that. Couple other minor issues, but we're working on all of them right now, and we will have them resolved and ready to present on the 25th. Wanted to announce, I probably should have done these in announcements, but I figured I was going to talk once. I'll just do it once. And that is, we have a couple of new employees that have joined us. So we're happy to welcome Sam Bernhardt on Tuesday as our new rec manager. And I will bring him here the 25th to introduce him to the board formally. And then we have a temporary employee as custodian. That's Jason Chambers. He started this Tuesday, and happy to have them both. They're both really good energy and positive people, and we're looking forward to working with them for some time to come. The last thing I have is I wanted to highlight a couple of documents that are out there. I'm not doing it because there's a problem at all, but I wanted to highlight a little bit about the reporting structure through the general manager. You're all doing great with this, so it's just for us to be clear and keep working the way we are. There is one of them is a chair request form for records and other information. I think you guys do a great job. You come through me every time, and I hope that we're fulfilling all your needs. If we're not, please let me know. I will generally assign it to the department head who's most responsible, and you'll work with them. But I am also assigning them, realigning their workloads quite a bit. So I want to make sure that we can balance that out. And then the second one is and these are both on our website, and I'll send you links after the meeting just to review. They're put in 2017. And then it's kind of, the second one is board and committee chair involvement in association management. That's just telling you how to coordinate with me and kind of what each of us are responsible for. And again, just for clarity and also for the audience to see how we operate. It's on our website. Again, been nothing but awesome to work with all of you, and so I appreciate all that. But clarity, like we talked about, communication is the most important thing. So with that, I will just open up for any questions you guys have for me. Okay, back to you, man. Oh,
Well,
Has there been an issue with how any of the board members or chairs have communicated with you?
no, not at all. This is just, it's out there, and there's a lot of folks on the group are new into their roles as well as I am. So I just want to make sure that we're clear about it and know that it's there and take a look at it.
Okay,
It's helpful for me as much as anything else. So
great. Okay.
all right. There's no other questions, then we'll keep moving on. We're down to new business with the online voting. So I'll turn it over to Linda on that.
Okay, so last year when NNE got tasked with looking for a third-party vendor, it was to initially look at online voting. In our travels and in our conversations with the different people that we interviewed to do this, we found that currently the way that we do business, and I sent that in the note to you guys, if we did online voting, we would have to give people 2 different forms to vote from. And I don't think we really can or should do that. The big thing that is for the board to consider and not for NNE to consider is the fact that currently part of our bylaws state that all members, including those who are not in good standing, may vote in the proposed budget in person by ballot, but would be unable to take advantage of the online voting. Once you vote online and you use a third-party vendor, you vote your ballot, and that's your ballot locked in. You have a chance to review your ballot, but then once your vote is in, it's in. Currently, with our paper ballots, we are able to tag any delinquent owners, contact them, inform them that we have them as a delinquent owner, and then allow them to bring their dues current, speak with somebody that handles setting up payment plans, because as long as you're current in those, you're allowed to vote on everything. Or talk to someone and see, maybe it's just, they've just got a small amount in there that are just fees and stuff, and Gil can waive them, accounts receivable. But in order for us to really move forward with truly looking at online voting, you as a board need to take a vote and decide, is being a member in good standing still a valid disqualifier for not being able to vote a complete ballot? You know, the state, you can owe the state millions of dollars and you still get to vote on everything. It's why our budget measure reads like it does. You know, it's just, you have to be a member of the community. It isn't that whether you owe it or not. I understand the philosophy behind the fact that you need to be a member in good standing. There are still other instances in our bylaws that require you to be in good standing. If you run for the board and stuff, or committees, and you are elected, you are required to be a member in good standing, even if you joined a committee later on. But it would be for you guys to decide. No matter what it is, you would need to put it on the ballot and the members would have to approve it. Then if it's approved, you could begin looking the following year at finding a vendor to do that. Unilect does this. It's just that, you know, we're never going to be an all online community. Just don't see it, folks. I think we're always going to be a hybrid. So you're always going to have to find a vendor that you're happy with, that does a hybrid, that you're happy with their process and stuff. But I guess that's what I'm looking at for direction. True, the NNE can look at doing the bylaw change, but if the board really doesn't want to take that away, then that's one little goal or project that NNE doesn't have this year. But I'm just looking at a consensus of the board of where you think we should go with this.
Joel, then Kim.
Linda, I think you're probably the best person to ask this, just out of everyone in Sudden Valley. But in contacting people, in your experience, have you found that the delinquency is due in just an honest inability to pay, or is a lot of times it due to some error with thinking that auto pay was set up and it wasn't, or something was filled out incorrectly? Somebody dropped a check off and it didn't get deposited, something like that.
What we've run, you should know that this last election, because of the governor's, I can't think what it is, his pronouncement that he made that we couldn't collect late charges or anything. We had absolutely not one delinquent ballot that we had to count. But what I find is sometimes it's not huge amounts of money. Sometimes it's maybe, it's not just our dues, it's our bylaws say that it's anything. Like if you have a marina slip or you have a kayak slip and you've forgotten to pay your $100, eventually that will put you into delinquency. And so that's why I'm saying it's like there's lots of things that it can be. Although I will say that in years past, depending upon when the AGM is scheduled and we mail out notices to people, and I've even run across this with candidates, that if it's really early before accounts receivable mails out the ACH, people have come up as being delinquent. And that's why we've kind of changed our process for vetting candidates and stuff, because I went through that one year and it's called you fool me once, but you won't fool me twice. So yeah, we run across some of those problems with that, where it would be really nice to not have to deal with that.
Is that, I'm not expecting you to know a statistic, but is it pretty uncommon, or is it pretty common, or is it like 20-80 or 50-50 or 80-20 that it's like an honest mistake, or it's like a $20 receipt that didn't get paid versus
You should know One thing NNE never sees nor asks about is the amounts or what the nature of the delinquency is. Usually that's the staff person that sits with us during the vetting process, and they have the list. Usually even that list does not have an amount due, only that the person is delinquent. It's just something that that's more information than this girl needs to know, or anybody really other than staff and the accounting people. But I will say that if there's a hot button topic, let's take the $12 million loan. You wouldn't believe how many people might start out delinquent, but in the end, they end up being able to vote, or they'll make sure they pay their dues so they're able to vote on that measure.
Okay. So you would suggest then, sorry to drag this out, this will be my last question.
No, that's okay.
I'm not trying to grill you, but you would suggest then that maybe there's like the ability to vote is like a motivator for people to catch up with their, I'm just trying to understand, like you said, it's different from state laws, and I'm trying to understand why that was added to begin with.
There are times where, people think we pay too much dues. We all, I'm not saying anything that we aren't all aware of, that everybody asks, we just had, when was it? In 2019, when did they do the dues limitation? Help me here, folks. We do lots of SGMs and they all run together in my mind.
2019.
2019, there's a real concern on behalf of the membership that we keep our dues low. That's not always easy to do with the changing times and the way things change. But sometimes I think that's part of the issue of not paying dues. I think sometimes vacant lot owners tend to just forget, although I can't say that for sure. Like I say, I don't keep track of all that information. I get a master list that is our mailing list, and whether people are a vacant lot owner or a developed lot owner, that's totally irrelevant. And a lot of that information just goes away. And unless I go and look at a specific address of someone, I can't tell you whether they're developed or vacant. But I think sometimes that happens. I know in the past, when we had far more vacant lot owners than we do, they used to be notorious. At one time, when there was a moratorium and they wouldn't let people build out here, we had over, and I'm not sure, but I know it was over $1 million in vacant lot dues due because they felt they couldn't develop their lots because of the moratorium. So why should they pay their dues?
Tim and then Glenn.
So Linda, for clarity, are you asking us to vote on whether or not members can and should vote if they're behind in their dues? Or are you asking us to vote if there should be an online process, or are you asking for both? It got conflated for me and I wasn't clear if you were
Gotcha.
asking for one or the other or both.
Number one, if you intend to do online voting, already the bylaws say we can do online voting. That's already done. What needs to be changed is the Article 2, Section 7 voting, where it separates out being in good standing. And it's just, that's a big decision on all of you. We know that that's a big decision for all of you that you need to decide if you want to do.
And so, but the reason this is coming up is because of online voting, because you said the vendors have difficulty having two different voting tiers.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like last year, and there's Josh, AJ, Paula, and Andrew that would know kind of what I'm talking about, because everybody else is brand new. But, we started, that was what the NNE was tasked with. And then COVID came along and it was like we needed a third party vendor no matter what. But I promised last year that I would bring this discussion forward again, because it is a 2-year process of doing that. You could change, you could put that on the ballot for the AGM, and the members would still have to approve it in order to move forward with online voting in 2022.
Okay, and then lastly, with respect to Nancy's concern, is there any kind of backup for if there were a recount, or is there any kind of backup for online voting?
How do I say this? How do I say this? I'm not sure. I can remember, and you're pulling at me. I can remember looking.
Thanks, that's what I do.
No, there's spreadsheets that we looked at from one of the vendors that showed us some online stuff, because all of our meetings were through Zoom, where you actually have a copy, much like right now, if I asked Unilec to provide me a copy of all of the voted paper ballots, I could get that. If I needed to then create all those individual ballots to do a hand count, I could do that. And I think that there also is a way with online voting that you get that sort of a sample of what the person has voted. But I think it's different depending upon what particular program they use.
I think that's an important detail to know in order for me to vote on it, is to know for sure if there were a recount, would we be able to produce that so that we could accurately count things?
I can look into that.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Glenn,
Okay.
and then I'm going to go, and then Brian.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight on to Joel's question about delinquencies and such. We're well over 90% in our collection rate. That has waned a little bit in COVID, of course, but a large percentage of those are not behind by more than 2 payments. I mean, we're talking almost all of them. So there's a few that are delinquent, way delinquent, and we have a couple of those. But so when you're looking at the overall impact of that, that's a statistic that we can provide the actual statistic, but I just looked at them last Friday, and it's that's kind of what the outlook is for them. So I just want to kind of provide that context.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. So I have a couple points. So you said that last election we had no people that fell into this members in not good standing trying to vote category. How many times are we seeing this in past elections, past last year? I mean, are we?
Do me a favor. I will answer that question, but I need to go look at some reports. And I can probably give you from 2016 forward what the number of delinquent voters are with the SGMs and the AGMs. And I will look into if I can bring this back to the committee, and we'll do our homework on it. I will see with Unilect how I might even have some stuff on my computer for when we interviewed people, to figure out, is there a way to have a copy and a trail if you need to verify online voting?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to go get that right now, but I think that would be good information to know as well. Like, is this happening frequently? Like, are we changing bylaws for like this rare occurrence? I also don't really understand why there would need to be 2 ballots created. couldn't the ballots just have a statement on them that said after the budget vote, members not in good standings, votes below on this section will not be, counted, and then you vet all of those ballots, correct? And so if you vet it and they're not in good standing, you'd set those aside and just count them manually. We didn't have one of those instances last year, so it wouldn't have even been any additional work. And so I'm
What?
kind of curious as to if that would, Steffi, you're not on mute.
Great feet.
And then, yeah, I'm kind of curious as to why we would need 2 ballots. I don't see the reason for that.
Because currently, how do I say this? Let's say I'm delinquent in my dues and I don't realize it and I vote the whole ballot and I voted online and I turn it in. Once that's voted by you, nobody can change that ballot. I can't ask the vendor to go in and do it. I sure as bleep, bleep, bleep can't go in and do it. But that's the whole thing, is once you vote, that's it. I can't just say I'm going to take you out. If you would decide you wanted 2 sets of ballots, you would almost have to do that at the time of mailing, and you would have to separate your mailing list into people who were delinquent and people who were current, members in good standing, and mail them out that way, and they would be different. The one would just simply have a budget on it, and the others would have a full ballot. I don't think that's right.
I disagree. I don't think we would need to do that. I think a simple statement on our ballot would, like as a caveat, would be able, and then though, even if we went to online voting, which, I don't necessarily support at this time, but if we did, like, those ballots still have to be vetted, even though they're voted online. Mm-hmm. So they have to be vetted to make sure they're a member in good standing. So if they weren't, you would be able to segregate those online ballots the same way you would a paper ballot.
No, that's where you're wrong. If we do it online, we don't do that. If people, then you take that whole thing out about being in good standing.
I don't think we have to, is what I'm saying. Who decided that we had to do that?
To do what?
We had to remove that language to accomplish what? To accomplish online voting.
The 2 vendors that we spoke with that still could handle hybrid voting for us said that that's kind of how you have to do it. It's like, currently I can take a paper ballot and I can segregate it real easily. But when you have a company that people are online voting and they're sending us a list of these are the people that have voted online, then you get into the whole thing of, well, what if I find somebody that's delinquent?
And you would pull that. I think you would just pull that ballot out. I mean, if that's not possible, then I think that's a fatal flaw of online voting, to the point where we should not go down that road, period.
But see, that's why the state doesn't. That's why I'm saying people that use online voting, like, it's like you either choose that or you don't. If you guys don't want to do online voting anymore, I'm happy with that. It's just that last year, Josh wanted us to continue looking at it. You, Steffi, and y'all guys were very gung-ho about that. And if you don't want to do it anymore, you know what? I have no problem with that.
Okay, I just have one more point to make, and then I'll pass it on. Sorry. I agree with a lot of what Nancy said in her statement, actually. And the only other thing I see is we just changed the way we voted. And now we're like going to go back to the community again and talk about changing again. And then the next year to be changing again. And like, that's just not a super efficient process either. It'd be good to just utilize this party vending for another couple of years and solidify that process, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
That works.
I
That
got
works for me.
Brian,
It's just up
and
to the
then
board.
I think I got Brian, then Josh, then Paula, then Noel.
I was actually
A
before
couple
you,
things.
AJ, but that's okay.
Oh, were you? I'm
to,
sorry.
I just wanted to add that as much as I respect Nancy and respect and revere Linda, that I do think that third party vendor worked well last year. You know, obviously the last time we had a fully paper ballot election, there was a big problem with 70 ballots that showed up that we couldn't figure out how the hell they showed up. Excuse my French. So, and there could have been more ballots. We don't know. So that's the case. And Linda, you did a great job, but there's no way if you could guard those ballots 24 hours a day, that would be great. Couple things. Another thing is that the residents, I'm not sure I understand the philosophy behind barring a resident who's behind in dues from voting. Is it because number one, it's not gonna help them pay their dues, right? I don't think that if somebody's gonna pay their dues, like, oh, I'm gonna vote in this election. I don't think that's gonna do it. So I really do think that prohibiting that person from voting is kind of, don't we want to hear from that person? We know the person doesn't have a voice because they couldn't pay their dues, and so I have a feeling, I don't know, I feel that that perhaps should be changed. That's it.
Josh?
Yeah, for the record, I did ask about online voting last year. I support it, but at this time, probably not. We received some mass hysteria over the way the survey went out, and I could see this community has quite a bit of growing to do before we can get into online political issues, I think, even though I think it would be a step in the right direction of moving into the future. My opinion aside, I think it would be good for community members to email the board and let us know what they think about this process, because it would be a huge decision, and it would be interesting to know who supports it, how many people support it, so on and so forth. So I just don't think right now is the time for it, but it would be great to hear from some folks.
Paula?
Actually, Noelle, if you want to go first, you were before me. She had her hand up before me.
Okay. Thanks, Paula. Just simple, with the online voting, you'd think there would be a way that they could flag members not in good standing. I mean, it's a computer program. We can give them a list, and they can just flag the ones that need to, be limited in their voting. That's all.
I can ask, I remember when we had discussions before, it was like, no, you're not going to do it that way, or you're going to pay a fortune for it.
Paula? And then Joel?
Okay. Just a couple thoughts on things we've been discussing this evening. One, Kim, I saw that you had sent a message, and I think that you're right. With the right vendor, I didn't hear, Linda, you say that those vendors cannot do a 2-ballot option, but that they prefer not to. Is that correct, or did I mishear you earlier?
No,
So
that's correct.
It's not a matter of us not being able to do it. They don't want to do it that way, but we could still maintain vendors while doing the 2-ballot system if we had to. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. And then the next one was, I agree with Brian. I thought that the process worked really well last year. I think I would continue to support that option. That was the option we worked with last year. I thought it was really good. But I also think, hearing from people about what they thought about it would be really great. On the members in good standing, I think I would support relooking at that if it wasn't for the fact that you can come into good standing with a repayment plan. I think is a tool. It probably doesn't prohibit enough voters from swinging a vote one way or the other. It sounds like we probably have a handful of people that fit into that. And yet, on the other hand, it also sounds like in the past, it's been a tool to bring people to the table to get into an agreement for repayment. Once there's an agreement for repayment, they can absolutely vote. It probably helps some people if they don't realize that they've been delinquent. It sounds like that's been an issue in the past, and it helps them come into being in good terms. And again, they have the option to enter into a repayment plan. And if that's a tool to bring people to the table, as well as to educate people as to where they're at with it, I'd continue to support that as well. Now, if we were talking hundreds of people and it could swing a vote one way or another, we might have to look at it a little bit differently. But I think that that's something to definitely look at keeping on the table. And I would want to maybe get some input from our accounting department as to how many people come forward and enter into agreements due to that, or how that's looked in the past years before we made a decision on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to build off of what Josh said, kind of make it clear that we're talking about two different things here. Talking about online voting, and we're talking about delinquency and whether that should affect whether somebody's vote is fully counted or not. And so I would love to hear from people on both of those. I feel like the bigger issue between those is the delinquency issue. I feel like that would, if we could change that, that would streamline the voting process regardless of whether we're doing online or doing what we did last year. Mm-hmm. And it would be awesome to streamline that and not worry about having these lists like Linda was saying. And it made sense once she said it. Why would I have all this information on how much money everyone owes and all of that? And wouldn't it be great if the voting process didn't even include a list of people who owe money? Like, it's kind of weird when you think about it. So I'd love to hear from the community on that, especially if anybody wants to email in, that'd be awesome.
Anyone else want to say anything? I think it's sounding like maybe we want to give some time to the community to maybe reach out to us with some opinions further on this topic, and then maybe ask some further questions of staff and things like that. Does that sound like where we're at? And then we could readdress the topic either at the next meeting or the following meeting.
Sounds like a plan. I'll do my homework with the number of people who've been delinquent that has caused them to not be able to vote for something. I can do that from 2016 forward real easy. I'll also take a look at the whole thing about ballots and stuff, and I may have that information in my hard drive because we had a whole lot of it with talking with different vendors. I think the thing that's nice, and this really isn't part of it, but it's about a third-party vendor, is I found that I really appreciated working with Unilect. I think that it definitely saves time from staff. You know, when we were doing it ourselves, they were responsible for providing duplicate ballots to people, maintaining lists, all that sort of stuff. That's all done by the third party vendor. And I went and looked, and I had Rachel look up the information of how much money we spent on the election this last time. And we spent a total, it looks like, of $14,162.48. Now, the portion of Unilect's stuff was all together when we did the mailing, the postage, that sort of thing, and our little odds and ends. We were looking at around $13,962. What kicked us up and over, and Andrew probably is going to be the only person, no, and Josh too, when we sat down with the parliamentarian first round for her to do a script for a Zoom meeting, it was real apparent that the language for a script for an in-person meeting just does not follow with what you do during a Zoom meeting. And her actual cost to us, which is normally between, I want to say, $300 and $500, was $1,200 for our script and stuff, and her participation last year. A lot of that's done if we end up having to do a Zoom meeting again in November. I said before, I don't have a crystal ball, but you know, I keep seeing things, and yeah, we're getting better, but I don't know if we're to 50 people in a big room up in the dance barn there, folks. But anyway, that's the information that I have for you, and I'll come back and send you something ahead of time, and then we can discuss it at a future meeting.
All right. Sounds good. We will move on to the next one, and I'll turn it over to Glenn here.
Right. So we're going to talk about the agenda process and updating that process. This is one that actually you as a board during my interview mentioned this process indirectly on getting things out quicker and that sort of stuff. And so when I got here, Oryx and I talked about it, and we identified that this was one of those processes that can impact everyone, board, staff, and most especially the community. So it's one of the reasons we wanted to update it fairly quickly, and I'm going to hand it off to Oryx to present the details.
Thanks, Glenn. I have a presentation, actually. If you guys would like to see that, I'm happy to share my screen.
That's good.
So yeah, I'll just get that going. So I'm really excited to talk about this because it's something that's actually been on my mind. Can you guys see that? Since I started in June of 2020, this is something that I kind of realized straight away, because it was a new job for me, that this was a process that I was adapting to, like you do in a new job, rather than adapting the process to fit what the current needs might be. And I'm wondering if that might be the case for all of us, that we're looking at this and saying, yes, a lot of this is great, and we should keep doing it the way we do it, but there's also a lot of room for improvement. So some of the improvements that I've been thinking about are in the areas of timeliness, efficiency, communication, and transparency. And each of these tools that I'd like us to consider introducing really touch on all four of these aspects, but these are the four key words that stood out to me. So for timeliness, that's one we can probably all agree needs a little tweaking. It's been our practice to observe that 48 hours prior to a meeting, that's the deadline to post an agenda. What we like to try doing is actually posting a week in advance of the meeting rather than just 48 hours. So this is what a week might look like in the future. We're taking that entire week prior to a board meeting to make sure that we really have everything. We've done the work thoroughly. Everyone who needs to see it and approve it has had that chance. And then the board and community have an entire week to sit with that material and bring questions back to staff if necessary before sitting down to actually make some decisions. Feel free to stop me at any time, guys, if you have questions. When I was thinking about efficiency, I think that this agenda is a good example of what I'm talking about, because it's showing a streamlined thought process. It's a little easier to follow. So that's a way that I'm trying to introduce some more accessibility features here. We all know what item 2A-1 is because it's labeled really clearly. It's easier to refer to. for folks following along at home. On the back end for staff, something more efficient in all of these tools that I'd like to start using is that it'll make cross-training a lot easier. Right now, with no linear process and no set schedule, really around a lot of the work that I'm doing prior to posting, it's very hard for any of my colleagues to step in and take on some of what I'm doing if I weren't available for some reason. Communication is a big one. So Glenn introduced this tool to me. It's the long range planning calendar. And this picture that I have up here is the one that we actually were just working on today. So it's showing a timeline with all of the pieces in place so that we're well aware ahead of time what needs to be on which agenda. And that helps us know what work we need to do leading up to that to actually bring the board everything that they are going to need to see from staff. And then transparency. With more time to look at everything, I think more of our community members will have the chance to really engage in this process in a more meaningful way. And this memo, the photo up here is actually the one that you have in your packet tonight. That's showing some of the background thought process and work that staff has done. So what we'd really like to do, what Glenn's proposed that we do, is include one of these memos from staff with every agenda item so that we can boil down the essence of what is really going on with this project, or what research have we done, what are we trying to bring to you. We can show you our thought process and hopefully answer a lot of your questions before we're all sitting down in a meeting. So that's what I had prepared to show you guys. And I'm really excited to hear what input or feedback you might have for me, because this is really an ongoing process and it's going to take collaboration. Really, it's a tool that needs to be built with the board in mind, with the community in mind. As staff, it's always our job to support you and give you what you need to make the community function. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think.
Tim and Brian.
Thanks for the visual presentation, Oryx. That was very nice. And I wanted to say, which part is the agenda bill? Was that the memo on your, talks about the changes include an agenda bill? What is that?
It's the same thing.
It's the memo.
Yeah, I didn't mention
Okay.
the wording there, but it's the same thing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I like that, by the way, the memo is, I like the background and context, and then all the way down to the motion. I think that is really excellent and clear, and it gives people a chance to think things through so that when you come to the meeting, if something's missing, you are prepared with questions with the background. So I think excellent addition, Glenn and Oryx and the both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, really nice job with the presentation, Oryx.
Thank you.
And I like the change to the agenda as well. I just wondered, what about the timeline? What has changed about the timeline? Is there going to be more time or less time? The community will have more time to look. I didn't see it on the memo, the exact change.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question to kind of clarify what I'm talking about with that timeline, because I think so much of that happens behind the scenes. It's important to make that a little more clear. So right now, we post the agenda 48 hours prior to the meeting. I'm suggesting that we try posting a week in advance of the meeting, which will mean that rather than diving in and getting all of the work done right beforehand, for me, I'll be picking away at it more steadily all the time, whether it's a board meeting week or not. And you and the community will have a full week, ideally. It's the target goal that I'd really like to aim for, having that full week. If we are always doing our best to hit that full week, and if we were to miss it, and post on a Friday before a board meeting, that's still much longer than we've had in the past.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Yeah, my brain doesn't tend to start working until 48 hours before a meeting, so thanks. I'll work on it.
Josh?
Yeah, I just want to echo what these guys said. Awesome presentation, Oryx. It's really, really good. I mentioned it already, getting that agenda, it's so much easier on the peepers. So that's nice. And I just want to express gratitude that you guys are making considerations for yourselves, for the board, and for the community here. And I think that's awesome. Nice work.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, I think all the changes are excellent. I think a week in advance gives the board and the community the weekend to look things over and ask questions, and gives everyone time to make good decisions, or to make sure we have all the information we need. And just to point out one thing, this wouldn't change the 48-hour rule. That's still the underlying rule. This is a process, that we're putting in place. Doesn't change that. If we miss that target, we still have to hit those 48-hour deadlines for posting open meetings and everything like that. So it doesn't change that. We're just hoping to regularly put this stuff out further in advance. And I really like the memos too, and the proposed motions and stuff are very advantageous, and I think they're also very helpful for the community as well. Better understand Robert's rules and motions in general. Paula?
Just jumping on that bandwagon, Oryx. I loved this agenda. I thought it was so easy to get through. It was easier to break down the concepts with it. There were questions that didn't need to be asked, or may still not need to be asked as we move forward. I think it is top notch. It looks very professional. You guys did a fantastic job with it. So thank you.
Thanks. Glenn gave me the tools.
Yeah, both of you did great.
Can I chime in here too?
Yeah, Andrew, then Joel.
Thanks. No, I also on the bandwagon. Great job, Oryx. And I really like the idea of standardizing the process so that as we move through time, one board to the next board isn't, developing a new set of process, because that could be really confusing in your seat. So I really like what we've put together. Good presentation, and I look forward to implementing this as soon as possible.
Joel?
Ditto on what everybody else said. No original thought there, but I did want to ask, because we always come up to that 48-hour or pretty close to that mark. So it's never even occurred to me to ask this, but if we were to post a week early, is once posted, is the agenda finalized and can't be adjusted until the actual meeting when somebody makes a motion for an amendment, or can it be withdrawn and changed up to the 48-hour mark?
That's a really good question. I don't know for a certainty that there's a legal issue around doing that, but I know that my practice has been, if there's something additional, I do try to post that as a separate addendum so that it's clear that that wasn't part of what was originally published, but it's still relevant information. Any other changes, once we're within that 48-hour window, it's, I believe, really the best practice to just amend the agenda before beginning the meeting.
Okay. I had no opinion on it. I just wondered.
I would agree with that. Linda?
Just a question for Oryx. Would you be kind enough? I don't know how large that PowerPoint is that you shared with us, so that we have an idea of timelines and stuff. I think the only thing I'd be concerned about, but I'm not, and that's as if I was the treasurer, because they have their meeting on the Wednesday prior to the second meeting. One thing that usually, and I think it's somewhere in parliamentary law, that if you add an item to the agenda that is new to the agenda and is amended, it can be discussed, but it can't be voted on.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That would definitely be a question for someone with much more impressive pedigrees than I have. That
You know,
one, I want us to be careful of that, certainly. Having finance and board even a week apart has sometimes led to complications. It's been manageable in the past. I don't see any reason that we need to rush to change how we're doing that currently. But it's true that we'll have to be really mindful of what happens in finance and how does that affect the board's agenda, even if it's posted the next day. But it's my job to keep track of that stuff.
Okay. Just if you could share the PowerPoint with us, I'd love to take a closer look at that. What is it? The long range planning calendar. That's going to help you a lot when you get into the budget process in particular.
Yeah, I'll email that to you.
Thank you.
To everyone.
I think that the long range calendar too will help us with that, finance to board transition and making sure we got everything squared up and ready to go.
Yep.
All right. So we have a proposed motion from staff. Do we have any more discussion? Does someone want to make the proposed motion? Bueller. Josh?
I move to approve the updates to Sudden Valley Community Association's agenda process as presented, with the understanding that these tools will continue to be developed to meet the evolving needs of the Sudden Valley community.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? It passes unanimously. So,
Thank you.
there's nothing else with that. Thank you, Oryx and Glenn, for that.
Thank you.
We
Thank
will
you all.
continue moving on to strategic planning discussion. So I included as a part of the addendum to this agenda, and I also sent kind of a further, I'm kind of working on this bit by bit a bit here, but I sent a little bit further hashed out agenda to the board and long range planning and some of the staff members that would be probably critical for participating in this strategic planning session. But I'll leave that to Glenn to make those final determinations on the staff. The big things that we need to figure out tonight are setting the meeting dates and the tour date, and deciding whether or not we want Glenn to facilitate the sessions or we want to hire a facilitator. I sent my email. I'm putting together a strategic planning manual per se guidebook that'll kind of guide us through the events or the various meetings. It'll have some worksheets that we'll use to help guide the process, things like that. We can answer questions about the process and what we're going to do and things like that. But I'd like to first focus on getting some dates scheduled potentially for this stuff. And on Glenn's memo, it talks about utilizing the long range planning's committee meeting as like the board joining it. What I do believe has to happen is it's supposed to be like a special board meeting. It's not supposed to be part of your regular board meetings. We could do it in the evening. People are a lot less alert and productive in the evening. And we're probably looking at, 4 to 5 hour session would be ideal. If we're gonna go the evening route, we might have to break this up more because 4 to 5 hours in the evening is a tough task unless we're starting at like 5, and having a Zoom dinner or something like that. And otherwise we can do it on the weekend, a Saturday or Sunday. And so that's kind of what we have to decide here. The tour probably will have to be on a weekend because of daylight, at this point in time, would be my guess. So my thoughts is a weekend would be a lot easier. We could do a 4 or 5 hour chunk from 9 to 1-ish or so, or 8 to 1-ish. But I guess I'd like to get some thoughts from what people think. Josh and Kim.
I don't have much of value to add to this, but I will just say that any time will work for me. I think it's great that we're doing this.
I was going to recommend having maybe one on a weeknight and one on a weekend to mix it up. Just throwing that out there.
Justin.
If we do a weekend, I'd like to request a Sunday, just personally because I work Saturdays. And then I like Kim's idea of maybe mixing it up too.
Okay. Andrew?
How soon are you thinking you'd like to have these meetings? Like in the next couple weeks, by the end of February?
Yeah, my initial thought goal was to have the first meeting by the end of February. So either if Sunday's a preferable day with Justin's schedule, the 21st or the 28th. And then 2 to 4 weeks in between to do a tour. And depending upon how we structure that tour, that may need to be broken up into groups or multiple days, or we got to figure out the logistics of that still completely. But yeah. So yeah, by the end of February with one, and then by the end of March at the latest with the other. It's that time frame allows us to give good direction on the budget process and everything like that. Andrew?
Perfect. No, thanks. That gives me clarity. I'd be able to probably make the February for another 4 weeks after that. I might be out expecting baby Entrican at the end of March. So it'll be on you guys after then. But I'm so supportive of strategic planning. I think everyone here knows that. So I'm just excited that it's moving forward. So thank you.
Congratulations, Andrew.
Thank you.
One option we kind of have would be 28th of February, 14th of March, 28th of March. Just went down those Sundays, 2 weeks apart. I think the first meeting's probably going to be we're going to try to pack in going through our mission and our vision statement, discussing core values. And I also think it's important in that first meeting to at least start our discussion on priority setting for the various components of our comprehensive plan, whether that's capital facilities, community development, environment, recreation, those things. We'll get into kind of that stuff when we get you guys the manual and how that process will be laid out. But I think it's important to talk about our priorities in those, especially the capital priorities before we go on the tour. That way we've all kind of talked about ideas, thrown them out there. It gives us those thoughts in our head as we walk around these facilities and tour them to help us better just process and think about things. gives us some time to think about those priorities before we talk about goals to be able to accomplish those priorities and things like that. You know, so if we don't get to talking to priorities in the first meeting, the second meeting kind of get dumped with a lot of things then that have to get figured out all in one meeting with less time to process. I saw Kim's hand, then I see Glenn.
These are a lot of things to cover in the meeting. So I was wondering if we will be getting any kind of worksheets in order to think about some of the things, like covering a mission, vision, and all that in one meeting is a lot. So I would like to suggest if we don't have any pre or homework before the meeting that we do, so that we're not just coming in cold trying to think through those very, very important topics. The other thing I wanted to suggest also is maybe flipping your idea of AJ of having a conversation and then about finances and then taking a tour of the facilities. In my mind, it would be better to take a tour of the facilities and then have the conversation, having seen the facilities and knowing what you're looking at. I don't know what a lot of these facilities look like. I have never been to Area Z. So having a conversation about money about Area Z before I see Area Z would, in my mind, be counterintuitive. So just throwing that out there.
So just to clarify, yeah, I'm putting together worksheets on, you know, how we go through creating and rewriting mission statement, vision statement, value, coming up with values. That's all going to be part of the little manual that I'm putting together. The priorities is not so much a financial discussion at that stage. You know, you're outlining kind of your overall thing, your overall goal. Like, for example, the priority would be to maintain and preserve like the dance barn, let's say, based on like the survey, blah, blah, blah. You know, your goals to do that would be the financial like discussion portion and things like that. So your priorities is like a very high level discussion on how you want to, or what you think are the most important things to focus on over the next and we're just talking about priorities. Like, it's just I'll call it a brainstorming discussion is all I really want to get into, just so we can start writing stuff down so that we, you know, because some people have looked at this stuff. So it's good for you to hear those things before you go look at it, so that you can be like, oh yeah, I agree with that, or oh no, I think they're out to lunch on that, or something like that kind of thing is my thought process.
And then will we be getting highlights from the survey as part of this? Because that's another component of us making priorities, is factoring in community input.
We'll have the survey results report as part of this, and we can put together some charts so you can just visually look at, you know, some of the survey results, as opposed to like trying to look at a bunch of percentage numbers in a table, things like that. You know, I think we got some of that stuff already kind of created at this point. Yeah, all that stuff you can see on like the agenda provided. Like, there's the pre-work. So I intend to get you guys this stuff next week, so you guys have ample time to start looking at these various documents and things and start to outline the process so we can better understand it. So, you know, I'm just working on putting together that kind of first draft of this manual to get us through this process, you know, and I'll finish that up this weekend and circle with Glenn and get it all kind of packaged up and make sure we're, you know, all in agreement on it, on what it's saying, and then bring it to the board for feedback. You know, and maybe we have to edit it a little more after that, and then get it all kind of wrapped up and prepared to be posted as like the agenda for these meetings. Linda?
Glenn, were you right? Did you have something you wanted to say?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
sorry.
I wanted to put out that, thank you, Linda. I wanted to put out there that even with AJ, how you proposed the schedule, we could do, we probably will do the tour in small groups anyway. So we don't have to all do that on the same day. We can kind of work that in to where we have small groups schedule, and we'll put a schedule out there. So that we can be flexible with that as long as we're finished before your second meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
And I could throw that, I could throw a draft schedule together for you just to put some dates out there and stuff.
Linda?
Is there somewhere, because I think you said you're going to put all these documents together that are in the pre-work package, or could we put that on the website somewhere where we can access it? Because that's going to be huge to send to everybody.
Yeah, some of that stuff will be referenced via link to the website. You know, we can just drop a hyperlink in a PDF that pulls up that. You know, some of the stuff like, for instance, like the RCWs, like certain portions of it may apply. Like, for example, you know, you have your articles of incorporation, which outline your purpose, and there's RCW that discusses what a purpose means to a nonprofit corporation and that type of thing. You know, so we may pull out some bits and pieces out of those documents into the manual to like better highlight, you know, specific things. And then, yeah, we'll just have, you know, have a lot of that stuff kind of hyperlinked.
Like, yeah, I know one of the things you had in there were the articles, but you don't mention the restrictive covenants. And there's a lot in there that I would like to see that become, you know, our restrictive covenants were written before our articles of incorporation were. And I really think you need to add that as a document because it's got they're really broad definitions, but what kind of we all expect, because that's in our contract for our property. The only other thing I have to say is I hope you would consider adding that to the list of those documents. And down below on that first page, you say, there's a section called Why Plan, and it says, set the stage for the meeting outcome by presenting the strategy map. And I didn't see that mentioned up in that upper section. And so what's the strategy map that we're referring to?
Yeah, that's just it being, we're developing like that stuff at this point. It's basically going to be our manual that we're putting together on how we'll, you know, go through this planning process, specifically for these couple meetings, you know, and then there's also a larger planning process that, you know, long range planning committee along with the board will continue to undertake this year.
Gotcha. Okay, just those were the couple of things.
And this agenda is just a draft, so you know I'm still working on it. The one I sent today is slightly different than the addendum. I think I added some of the facility tour stuff, and yeah, we'll definitely be including the covenants. They're part of the governing documents.
Okay.
The other thing we could do is we could set the first meeting date and then follow up. At that next meeting, we could set following meeting dates. You know, if we wanted to go that route of at that point have a weekday evening session or 2 weekday evening sessions, you know, to break it up or something like that, we could go that route too.
So AJ, those dates that are in the the bill, those are just suggestions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had talked to Glenn about basically long-range planning committee utilizing their monthly meeting as this strategic planning meeting. There may be a need for the long-range planning committee to do a little bit of prep for the meeting or something. We'll have to look at that, but yeah. So those were just kind of suggestions for us to throw out and just spark the discussion.
AJ, you could possibly use one of the long-range planning committee meetings to just get us off the ground with some of this and set some of the groundwork, and then have 2 separate dates so that we're, if you look at the things that you want to cover, are there some things that you could put easily into a long-range planning committee meeting and then take away from some of these longer sessions that we have for our special meetings? Because you also, rather than doing it as a board meeting, and yeah, it would have to be a special meeting, but you could also, if once you get into these special meetings, meet as the committee of the whole and move to that, so that we're all just sharing rather than it being real official and stuff, since it's for the purpose of discussion. Those would just be my suggestions, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we're really only planning about an hour of kind of preliminary stuff before we really started getting into the meat of things. The goal is really to get you guys this stuff here. Like, let's say if we had our meeting the 28th of this month, if we get something to you this week, we got 2 weeks to start reviewing this stuff and prepping, start discussing anything further, answering questions, getting additional documentation people may feel they need. That type of thing. I think we should be pretty, prepared to, kind of hit the ground running. I would kind of propose maybe if we're going for Sundays, that the 28th, I think, would be a good day for our first meeting. Brian?
Yeah, the only, not really objection, but it would be nice for my long-range planning folks to be have maybe a say in this as well, since they're going to be have a part in it. I don't know whether that works logistically, or I could have sent an email out earlier. It's my bad, but
yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to coordinate every, to some extent. We just kind of have to schedule it and
Right.
accommodate.
I guess you sent that email out to everybody today, though. So
yeah, that was
work.
to everybody.
Yeah.
This would give us a little over 2 weeks notice, which is pretty good. Yeah, it was something I considered for sure, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I was just kind of decided that someone's just going to have to make the decision on when it is, and we can go around in circles forever.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Josh said, we got to do it. I'll just make myself available.
Yeah, I'm available as well. So, but yeah, I could see it's a logistical quagmire in a way.
So
I think if you pick a Sunday, AJ, don't get us started too early in the morning. Maybe 10 o'clock, and then whenever we finish.
10's early.
Linda, you're not an early riser?
I'm not, but my cats force me to be. And I really don't think until I've had coffee and something to eat in the morning.
It's called auto feeder.
Linda has to have her Sunday crepes.
No, actually, it's more like poached eggs.
Wow, even fancier.
Absolutely. So I have to eat in the morning before I think. I'm a diabetic. I'm sorry, guys. I have a whole regimen. That's why I'm saying don't start too early. A lot of people, most of you all work, and when somebody was saying 9 o'clock, I'm thinking, oh, that means you got to get up at 7. And, and I was listening to Justin saying that he works on Saturdays. There has to be some beauty of having a little bit of sleep late. That's just a suggestion, guys. You don't have to pay any attention to me.
All right, well, I guess I am proposing the 28th. If anyone has any objections to that day, if it was which would be a Sunday, and I would propose we block 4 to 5 hours off for the first meeting, to help us get through things. 10 o'clock is fine with me. I think even if we start at 9, we're encroaching on the lunch hour, regardless, no matter what. So we'll just have to accommodate that in the schedule.
If we break and come back, how does that affect John if he's handling the meeting?
I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Maybe it's just a full afternoon, like a football afternoon for me.
Well, and we've been talking about taking the pressure off John a little bit, so we'll coordinate what that looks like for that day.
Does anyone have any conflicts with the 28th?
You got a date?
Sounds like you're golden.
Let's go with the 28th. Do people like the sound of 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
And I guess if it comes back and everyone from long range planning is not available, we can readdress a meeting date via email or something like that too. Oh, hello.
Someone's in the fast lane right now.
Yep.
All right, well, we'll plan the 28th at 10 a.m. then. The other discussion point is using Glenn as a facilitator. Talking with Glenn, he's done this process both ways, facilitating it himself or having a facilitator come in. Kind of really on us. There'd obviously be a cost associated with bringing someone in. I can turn it over to Glenn. I think he outlined that a little bit, and he's worked with some people on this stuff in the past. But if that's the route we want to go, we need to make that decision tonight, because Glenn's going to need to. We're going to have to make sure we can secure someone for that date and time then.
That'll be your challenge is availability as much as anything. But your cost would be for 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours would be in the middle of the range I gave you, which was 2,500 to 6,000, depending, of course, on who we get and if they have a premium pay for Sunday. But I have a list of, I know a lot of folks who do it. So if you want to go that direction, I can start contacting them as early as tomorrow. And then now that we have a date, that helps. I certainly have done it plenty of times before, where I did a little bit of a dual role, which that's what this would take, because you're going to look to me as your GM to give you feedback on certain things. And I can do that and step out of kind of the facilitation role for that time to be able to provide you that input if that's what you'd like. Think in some of the ways that's kind of what the beauty of this system is though that it's not as formal for all of you. So I think Linda mentioned, and I think Kim did too, that you have a little less formal time to discuss, and you guys don't have to worry about running the meeting and keeping things on time. That would be my job or the facilitator's job to keep you focused on what you said you wanted to focus on. So either way I'm comfortable with, just whatever you're comfortable with.
Josh?
I would support having Glenn MC this event, and you know, I think you haven't been here too long, Glenn, but I think you'll be bringing in a different perspective regardless. So I would feel comfortable if you're comfortable with it.
I second those thoughts myself.
Agreed.
Fourth.
All
Yeah,
right.
me 10th.
Yeah.
All right. Well, looks like we're all in agreement. Do we have any further discussion on that? Kind of move forward with that plan then. So yeah, I'll work on finalizing some stuff up this weekend and circling back with Glenn for reviewing it all, and we will get stuff out to you here beginning of next week, or yeah, beginning of this next week.
AJ, did you want this put into motions? They're in the packet.
You don't
I
have
suppose-
to.
I don't know if we have to technically.
Okay.
This is the kind of administrative task, but
I
maybe we
agree
should
with you. I
probably-
just wanted to make sure there are motions present in the packet, but I agree with you. I don't think that we need to do it.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion.
I think you should make the motion, Paula.
You think we need a
I
motion?
think you should, Josh.
I've had my motion for tonight, so.
I don't know if we need them. I think it's not an official action we're taking.
Okay.
I'll tee up the next one, Josh.
All right.
All right. So does anyone else have anything strategic planning process? If there's questions about the process, I'd maybe recommend we do it via email at this point. And then I'll be obviously getting you more information. So that'll help sort through, maybe some of the, how we go about doing this thoughts that people have. All right. Oh, Paula.
I always lose my cursor to get myself off of mute. Is this going to be open for members to view online when we have this meeting?
So I'd have to confirm with John, but I think in order to do breakout rooms and stuff, which is something we've been discussing for this, we can't have the like attendee panelists thing or whatever. So I think the best we might be able to do is just record it and post it to the website, or maybe we'll be able to live stream it so people could just watch it on YouTube, John, but not actually in Zoom.
Yeah, we should be able to accommodate that. But yes, breakout rooms are not available in the style of meeting that we use right now. Apparently, it's a feature they're working on, so hopefully later this year.
So I think in talking with Glenn, he's typically utilized those processes. We kind of have some of those processes broken down in the agenda as well. So we'll probably have to go that route. But it is an open meeting. I did ask Richard to make sure, because some organizations do this stuff as like a retreat where it's like behind closed doors, things like that. But those are more like corporations like that. He said, no, it'd be an open meeting. We got to post an agenda. There's not really minutes. There's not going to be motions made and stuff like that. Like Linda said, you got a committee of the whole event, basically kind of type thing where it's an informal strategy session.
Kind of more like our budget sessions.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and then just so the community is aware, one last thing, the agenda, we will follow up with a town hall event after this to bring this information to the community, get some feedback from them, bring the survey, with the survey results can be a part of that, because long range planning talked about doing a town hall for that, these types of things. So, but discussions for future days. I will now turn it over to Glenn on the RFQ for reserve consultant.
All right. Thank you. So we've been looking at going out to take a look and see what it's out there for for a reserve study consultant. The one we've used in the past has been around quite a while, and it's just good practice to go ahead and do that. So we're recommending that we move forward with doing a process. I outlined the tentative schedule. It is a touch aggressive, but I think we can. I think we can do it, and we just want to make sure we're able to allow whoever we choose to deliver the reserve study in time for the budget. We're going to talk about when we draft the scope up. We've been talking about a level, making sure we do a level 1 according to Washington. So we'll be doing a high level 1. Let's see, what else did I have? Joel and I will draft up the scope of work together and then lead the process. When we get to review the submittals, it'll be Joel and I, and then I'll choose 1/3 staff who's not directly related to the process to give us a different perspective. And I think with that, I wanted to open it up for your questions and comments.
I'll just throw out, I support looking or going out for an RFQ for this. We have used them since 2016, I believe.
Yep.
Been 5 years. It's always good to do RFQs to create competition in pricing and quality of work that we're getting. Schwint is obviously still, perfectly capable of submitting a proposal to be the reserve specialist moving forward. But, in my line of work, I do a lot of hiring of consultants, and we make it a standard practice to always, be regularly going out to induce that competition among the private sector. Linda?
I am assuming since we just in 2020 had a level 2 done by Swint, wouldn't we be looking at 2022? I'm assuming if you're looking at a brand new reserve consultant, they're going to want, if you're hiring somebody brand new that's never seen us before, they're going to want to do a full level 1 study, correct?
We have to do a level 1 regardless. State law. We should have done it last year.
Every 3rd year we're required.
And we did a level 2. So yeah, we got to do a level 1. We're now a year behind, I believe.
Yeah, it's just, I think.
So even if we use Schwinn, I think that's going to be a requirement no matter what.
I just, I wanted to, that's just because that's where you spend the most money. That's where you're talking probably around, if you're looking at somebody, I'd say 20K. And if you find somebody that's brand new, they're going to have to come visit us. I just don't know that you're going to be able to use it for 2021 for any real planning. I don't know what you're thinking, AJ. That's my only thought.
What do you mean? Why won't we be able? I mean, it depends upon, we obviously have to set the schedule. We would like to see the reserve consultant meet and stuff in our RFQ and our scope and everything like that. So we dictate those things, not them. We're the one giving them business. So we should act like it and be the one that drives the negotiations on these types of things, whereas it feels like we haven't always done that. Kind of let other people drive the negotiations. We just kind of accept what they say. You can outline in your RFQ, like, we want a reserve study done by this date so that it can be part of our budget process, because that's what it's needed for.
I just don't know if with our, I'm going to be the bad egg in the room. I don't know if with starting our budget process in June, that if you hire somebody brand new, you're going to be able to use them for the 20, for anything we do this year. You're almost going to be stuck with that level 3 that we'd have. and modifying it if we need to. But it's like for them to really give us a comprehensive overview of us, it's almost going to be 2022 that they're going to be able to give you something really solid on. Yeah, that's part of our, I think, and part of it's going to be timeline too, because it takes them so much time to come out here and visit, and staff to show them around, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's all I'm thinking. And I think if you're going to get somebody, one of the things we've done since 2016, because I kind of took a look at this, is we've had them not only do our level 1, but we've also asked them to come in and do our updates. And I think if we're going to do that, you need to look at what is that overall package if every year you have them come and do the updates. Prior to 2016, we used to just go, it used to just be every 3 years. Back to 2011.
I think you'd want a 3-year cycle with your, kind of what you're asking in your RFQ. You're asking for a level 1 and 2 updates, in your contract, basically. And then every 3 years, you're going back out to RFQ unless that consultant is not good and you're not satisfied in those 3 years, then you work to terminate that agreement or whatever you need to do to remedy that situation. Would be my thought process. I'm sure they work under the same engagement letter style thing that the auditors do, where you sign a 3-year agreement, but it's really just a 1 year, it's every year. You're just locking in like a price basically for those years.
Yeah, I think if I look
and
at
either way, we're doing a level 1. So no matter if Schwint does it or someone else, they're coming out here to look at all of our facilities.
Yep, I gotcha. It's just that I understand, you referenced this RCW 545 and 550, and that says that you have to update your reserve study every year. And I'm saying, if we don't do that internally, which we used to do, and I believe Larson Gross used to help us with it, then it would be nice to know ahead of time how much money is that going to cost us each year to have them assist us with then a level 2 or a level 3 for each year in between the how do I say it, the 3-year cycle that we're required by law. That's all.
I think we can
Let's
get that
just find
information
out what
through
the
our
number
RFQ.
is.
Yeah, that's all RFQ and scope related, and you
Okay,
negotiate
that's-
that and you make sure it's all there. Yep.
I'm just saying it's a change, and it's like since 2016, we've spent around $30,000 on, them helping us with our updates and stuff. So it's something to think about. I think if I look at the reserve study, which is really weird because it doesn't show us doing one until 2025, but I don't know why Swint put that in there, but that's neither here nor there. But it's an added cost, 30,000 isn't the same as around 20,000, and then skip a couple of years because we do our own updates. That's all.
I don't think we're allowed to do our own updates either. I think the reserve study's supposed to be done by an
Well, read the
independent
state law, what
reserve
it says.
specialist.
It just says that your reserve study has to be updated every year, but that every 3rd year, it has to be done by an independent reserve specialist. That's all. Just talking money.
Do we have any concerns about going out for RFQ on this? Does anyone opposed to that? All right. If no one's opposed to that, oh,
Josh has his hand up.
Oh, I was just going to make a motion here.
Excellent.
Sounds like
That's what I need.
we're at the end of the road. I move to approve the request to begin the RFQ process for the 2021 Reserve Study Consultant as proposed.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion needed, or we'll call the question? Motion as written in the agenda packet. All those in favor? Any opposed? Like it passes unanimously. All right. What's next? Looks like we're need a motion to move into closed session at this point in time.
Move to go into closed session at 8:48 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. See you on the other side.
Holy cow, my screen's so big.
Oh, because not everyone's here.
Man, that closed session was so intense. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to recover.
And it's so early.
It's not midnight yet.
We forgot to tell you that the agenda process also helps with the meeting times.
Yes,
Looks like we
very
lost
nice.
about 80% of the audience too.
All right, is everyone back? It's weird. I always look at everyone and I figure out if everyone's here based on like when everyone was elected. I'm like, oh, Andrew, Josh. I just don't know why. That's just the way my brain goes.
No, Steffi.
Square's business.
We're missing Steffi.
All right. Well, she may have gotten sucked away on call too because she did go black there for a minute.
Oh, that's right.
Sometimes that happens. So I vote let's just move on if that's the case. Is that the only one we're waiting on?
Yep.
All right, let's just do it. Do we have a motion to come back into open session?
Move to come back into open session at 9:44.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, we will move to property owner comments then before we adjourn.
Okay, we do have 3 people still in our audience here. So if you would like to join in for property owners comments, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom. I'll bring you over. Looks like Ann would like to talk. Brought you over here, Ann. Go ahead and give your name and address, please.
Hi, Ann Cope, 52 Louisview Drive. Linda, this is for you. I have a question about the delinquent members. You said this year there were none. Was that because there were actually no delinquencies or because of the Inslee's?
Because of Inslee's. I asked about that too, because the list was really short. And sometimes the only delinquencies that people have might be unpaid fees and stuff if they've gotten behind. Not so much that they're, it's like if they've paid a fee, but they're paid late. Let's say they're marina moorage and they paid late and they had a little bit, but late is late and delinquent's delinquent. But with, like you say, him saying we can't count that, I don't think they've been actually calculating that against anybody, because I was just truly amazed.
Okay, thank you.
But I think that's what it's about, is Inslee's proclamation.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ann. I'll go ahead and move you back to the audience here. Have a good evening now. Looks like we're down to 2 people. If you'd like to chime in, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom.
All right, let's call it. We got a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Night,